This meeting of the Bellevue School District Board of Directors is now called to order for September 4th, 2025. We will start with roll call.
Phil Block.
Caroline Watson.
Marta Trilles.
Monica Webster.
Jay Norris.
Okay, next, Dr. Kelly.
Sorry, Kelly Aramaki.
Okay. Next, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, so let's all rise for that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next is our land acknowledgement. And I'll remind everybody that we were asked by a member of one of the tribes to please have an elected official read it instead of, we used to designate it to a student. So now we're changing things that way. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous lands of the Coast Salish, including the Duwamish, Muckleshoot, and Snoqualmie peoples. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial. We reflect on the historic context that brings us to reside on this land and accept responsibility to interrupt erasure. We are committed to our ongoing partnership with the Snoqualmie tribe as we listen to, learn from, and lead with their guidance. Okay, next we have acknowledgements. So this month is National Suicide Prevention Month, National Hispanic Heritage Month. We had Labor Day. We are yesterday having Maled al-Nabi, and then on the 16th we have Mexican Independence Day. Okay, and now I'm going to ask that we approve our agenda. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second, okay. Is there any discussion about the agenda? No? Okay, all those in favor of approving tonight's agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that agenda motion is approved, and now we're going to go on to the consent agenda. So let's get a motion from down there somewhere to approve the consent. I'm having people take turns.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
And who would like to second?
Second.
Okay. Now, is there any discussion of the consent agenda? Any discussion of those items?
I just want to acknowledge that if people looked earlier in the week, there were a couple of minor corrections to the classified joining and absences and separations that were made in the last couple of days.
Oh, thank you for pointing that out. Anything else? Okay, in that case, I'm going to say all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, the consent agenda passes. All right, wow, we're moving right along. Now it's time for superintendent updates.
Great. Thank you so much, President Watson. I just have a few updates to go through this evening because later in the meeting, we're going to do a full kind of first day of school update. So I'm going to have members of the cabinet come up and just share some highlights from this week. But let me go ahead and get us started. Just the first thing is to say it's been an amazing week. It's taken really an incredible effort from the whole system to launch successfully the school year. And this is a picture that our Chief Operating Officer, Heather Sanchez, took. Just the buses before they rolled out on the very first day. It's such a beautiful picture. But our transportation team, you're going to get to hear from our ops teams in 2 weeks all of the work that they've done to get ready for the school year. So, but I just want to say thank you to our whole community for all their hard work in getting this school year launched so successfully. I want to share, so after this board meeting, we have a study session on budget and enrollment. And so I want to just give you some highlights. It's really small, so I'll read it to you, but I wanted to put it on the slide just in case people wanted to go back and look at it. I want to try to give updates to the community, our staff, as frequently as possible. I'll have another update coming out in next week's newsletter. But these are just some highlights for people who are interested in the topic of budget, enrollment, and staffing, okay? The first one is enrollment in Bellevue is increasing. When you compare day one this year to day one last year, our enrollment increased by about 150 students. And so that's a good sign because there was concern about enrollment that it could have dipped because of home prices or because of kind of national politics and policy and things like that. But we have about 150 more kids first day of school this year than we did last year, which is really, really good. We are on track to hitting our budgeted enrollment number of 19,134 FTE, which translates into about 19,600 headcount. So for people who don't live in the world of FTE and headcount, headcount is the total number of kids that are considered part of Bellevue School District. FTE, the full-time equivalent, is it's a smaller number because we have to take out Running Start kids, we have to take out part-time Running Start kids, and we have to take out kids who participate in WANIC. So those are kind of the three main drivers for what makes a full-time student. So we're shooting for 19,134 FTE, which translates into about 19,600 kids. We are on track to hitting that. So there's good news and kind of reality check as part of that bullet point. And so the next one is average elementary class size is right now 24.44. Average secondary class sizes in the core content areas is about 32. And with those average class sizes, there's pretty significant variation across grade levels in schools. So I just want to point that out, that even though those are the averages, there's quite a big swing. There's some smaller, there's some larger. The next bullet point says, because enrollment is coming in as projected, which is what I mentioned earlier, this means that we will likely not have any additional funds to hire additional teachers. So just to say that in another way, our enrollment is coming in where we budgeted, which is good. But it also means that the staffing that we've allocated to schools is the staffing that we have based on this budget. So we won't have additional money to add additional teachers. To address larger outlier classes, then we have to reallocate staffing from classes in schools with lower enrollment. So that is something that we're working on right now, is we're looking at how the kids came in, which grade levels, which classes, which schools, and we are looking at where it's low, where it's high, and trying to make determinations about what things we can do to balance it out as best as we can. That said, I want to thank the community and the staff for their patience, understanding, as we see how the enrollment comes in prior to making any staffing adjustments. Schedules and classes may change in the next week or two as we even out the high and the low class sizes. There are two factors that are driving the higher class size average. And these are kind of the two big ones, but the first one is just in general, the cost of increased elective offerings or the 7-period day. I guess there's three things: keeping expenditures within revenue, which is something we absolutely have to do, and then binding conditions, which is requiring us to save $2 million of the revenue that's coming in. So there's really three factors. Sorry, it says two, but there's three. So the first one, I just want to mention that the state doesn't fund the 7-period day, but we as a community choose to fund the 7-period day, both at middle school and at high school. But when you add electives and classes, that does mean that the class sizes are going to be higher. School districts that choose to have 6 periods at middle school and or at high school could lower their class sizes more because they don't have to hire as many teachers. They can put it into lowering class size. The next point is conservative use of resources is both a temporary thing and a long-term thing. So this one is a little bit complicated, but we'll have more margin once we restore our fund balance, which is happening sooner than later because of the property sale and things like that. And public education funding in Washington does not keep pace with increasing costs, which requires us to stay lean in the long term. So because we're in binding conditions, because we're trying to rebuild our fund balance, we have to be extra conservative with our staffing. We have to be extra lean with our budget until we rebuild to about a $30 million fund balance. So that is a temporary issue that we're dealing with. However, long term, state funding is not adequate enough to actually give us the staff that we want for the class sizes that we want. So it is this issue of class size and the conservation of resources is both a short-term problem and a long-term problem. And then the last point I just want to mention is we are prioritizing our funding for our classrooms. And I want the community to know that, because especially as we're going through these challenging times with limited resources, I want to keep reminding people that our goal is always to prioritize classrooms, the funding for classrooms. And this is just a case in point, but central office administration has decreased from 6.8% of our budget in 23-24 to 5.3% in 25-26. And we are now among the lowest in our region for central office administration. That's just one example, but a lot of our cuts have been to MSOCs and to central office services and things like that. So we've done as much as we can over the past 2 or 3 years to keep the cuts away from students. And even so, with the rising costs in school districts and things like that, and with us going into binding conditions and having to rebuild, the impact is felt in the classrooms for sure. I will be sending out more information about this. As we get more data, I'll be sending out more data. And then between Janine, my comms person, and Jeff and HR, we're going to be working with our labor unions just to share some of the data and work through any challenges that we're facing with regards to budget, enrollment, and staffing. My last slide and my last just kind of point for my update is we did a celebration for our finance and human resources team on the first day of school. So there's the picture of all of the folks who work in finance and HR, as well as the school board. Every school board member showed up to celebrate them. But these two teams have worked so unbelievably hard over the past year and over the summer just to help stabilize our finances, to rebuild systems, to strengthen internal systems. Individuals on these teams have shown incredible ingenuity in finding solutions like the property sale and things like that. But I think most importantly, these two teams represent unbelievable teamwork. They have worked so hard and closely together to make sure that our staffing processes are really tight, to make sure that our budget processes are tight, and that everybody's working together towards that end. And so I just wanted to shout out the two teams and to thank them publicly because the stronger they are, the better resource we can be in our classrooms for our kids and for our teachers. So that is the end of my update for today.
Well, thank you for explaining all of that. Yeah. Okay, so now it's time for public comment. Let me go with my public comment introduction here. All right. The board values public input and allocates 20 minutes per meeting for public comments, with each speaker limited to 2 minutes. Comments must be civil and within legal and district policy boundaries. The meeting chair may end comments that exceed time limits or violate standards of civility. The board expects the same level of civility that the board imposes on itself. Uncivil comments include those that are libelous, obscene, violate privacy, incite unlawful acts, or disrupt the meeting. The board reserves the right to maintain order, but differentiates between uncivil remarks and critical yet respectful commentary. So now, Mr. Harrison, would you introduce the public commenters for tonight?
That would be my honor to do so. We have two registered speakers this evening, both in person. So I would ask each of them to make their way up to the front here and make sure that you state your name for the record and be cognizant of the time that will be displayed in the top left-hand corner of the screen.
forgot mention my name because it's a sexual harassment. I don't know, but it's harassment. Oh, I missed it down. I'm sorry. Yeah. My name Alex Zimmerman. I want to speak about something what is, I think, absolutely critical, and exactly critical because you teach children. So you're supposed to be teach children who support American Constitution and American principle. But if 2 minutes, what is you have? Nobody have around 2 minutes. I spoke around 1,000 times, 5,000 times. Yeah, so it's 3 minutes. Yeah, you need changes. It's very simple. You will show everybody, parents, children, and your employee, so you have same standard like have everybody. Because when you have less standard and you teach people, it's a very bad condition. Second, what is I want talking about this, what is make me absolutely surprised is I think the situation absolutely dirty, not understandable. You have 2,000 employees, 1,500 teacher, and another employee, bureaucrat, something like this. I never see one from them come here and talking. It's only one employee who talking this is superintendent man. So when this one only man can talking, in 2,000 who working cannot talking, you know what this mean? Sorry, so you look to me like a Führer, you know what this mean? It's everything what has come to my analogy, the German Nazi rules. Yeah, I'm sorry this, you need doing this. Why they don't do this? Because they scared. You bring fascism right now everywhere in country. It's a nightmare, what is I never see before. Is this fascism very close to German Nazi, what is have before? So give people chance speak, because everybody, I think, have problem. You know what is mean? I have 100 people in my company working for me. You know what is mean? And I talk, you're supposed to be coming, talking to me. Yes, because when you're talking, you give people chance be a human. This is good for business. So right now, this is exactly what is I want. Stand up. No, sorry. Viva Trump. Viva the new America revolution.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Good evening, directors. My name is Reagan Lorden, and I'm the Vice President of the Bellevue Education Association, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of myself and our BEA President, Jill Rock. I want to take a moment to celebrate the collaborative work that went into our new collective bargaining agreement. This was not an easy process and one that took much time and effort. This process was challenging, but it was built on respect, problem solving, and a shared commitment to doing what's best for our students and educators, and in creating thriving learning communities that are the hallmark of Bellevue schools. Jill and I had the privilege of being out in buildings this week, working with our members as they start up and launch the new school year. One thing we heard again and again from them was how grateful they were to have the agreement finalized so early. The deliberate and thoughtful work of our bargaining teams allowed educators to start the year with clarity, stability, and confidence, knowing what to expect and providing time to focus on the important and creative work of teaching and supporting students without uncertainty hanging over them. Our partnership on this work was essential to making this so. During those first 3 days across the districts, even in classrooms where class sizes were far from ideal, teachers were showing resilience and professionalism while creating welcoming spaces for their students. As we visited the classrooms, we saw students engaged and excited to learn and be supported. Learning was being kindled and sparked because their teachers were able to focus on their craft. Stability and clarity from our CBA is enabling teachers to do what they do best, to start strong and get building engaging and inclusive classrooms. This is what's possible when the district listens to its educators and works together to create working conditions that improve the learning conditions of all of our students. And while our educators are stepping up in incredible ways, like they always do, it's important that the district continue to step up as well. We are hopeful and confident that relief for large class sizes is on the horizon, as additional FTE can and should be allocated, and there is more support put in place to ensure our students and our educators are best served and have what they need to thrive. This will make a real difference for both staff and students, and we look forward to continuing this work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
We added a third speaker who is in person, Dr. Ford.
How's everybody doing? Okay, this will be quick. So over the summer, I had the pleasure of actually working with one of the Interlake High School students, actually in AL. was helpful and supportive of my family, and great experience. And he was telling me that, he was into rocketry, things were going really well. They had won a competition, but they weren't necessarily going to go and make it to the next level due to, I think, some policy or something outside of performance. And he was just great, and I told him I would follow up. So I wanted to follow up, and I was looking through the budgets today, and I noticed there was like a 4-day trip for maybe almost $4,000, the $3,700. I can't get that math to work. And I hope somebody's looking into these things to just say, like, we could be spending this money on a whole bunch of stuff. If a conference is $1,100, a flight maybe $500, where's the $2,200? Where's the rest going to, right? I looked through our policies. I've had a travel job consulting before, doing professional services before. We always reference like gsa.gov. There are a lot of meter sticks that you could put out there to look at, say, in this area, this is a reasonable hotel. In the St. Pete's area, that's $148 in November. This is a reasonable per diem. In the St. Pete's area, based on gsa.gov, that is $80 per day. $60 per day on the travel days. Still can't get to that $2,200. So I just wanted to follow up. Math doesn't necessarily make sense. I hope we can maybe figure out ways to just at least communicate, like, this is where these dollars for these 4 days go, or like whatever, because I know we try to keep like spend in control, but it can easily kind of spin away. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now it's time for item 5, the first day of school presentation.
Awesome. All right, the team's going to come up. Oh, Janine. Okay. I'm not going to say that I already gave them the order to sit in, but that's okay. So it's going to work. These are members of the cabinet. I'm so thrilled to have them here presenting first day of school report. I'll just kind of kick us off by saying that first day of school, a number of us, we take the board out too. And so it was great because President Watson and I got to spend almost the entire day together. And we went from Bennett to Medina. We made a stop at the Queen Bee Cafe, which their pumpkin pie latte is actually quite good. And then Chinook, Newport High School, and we got a tour of their new facility there, absolutely gorgeous. But it was such a good day. I mean, in so many ways, I agree with what Vice President Reagan Lorden said, how the kids just looked super happy and the teachers looked really happy. I mean, there was just an amazing kind of excitement in the air, and people are, I think, demonstrating incredible resilience. And so it was thrilling to see. And so my team is going to be giving an update today. These are the topics. We're going to start with an update from Human Resources on this idea of building the BSD Dream Team. We'll give you an update on Summer Institute and the things that our staff have been learning over the summer to prepare for the first day. An update on professional learning days. Those are the first PD days at the school sites. And then maybe a few stories from the first day of school, and then first day video. And then sorry, John, I forgot that we're also going to do just a mention about Jubilee Service Day. So those will be the topics for today.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Aramaki. One of the things that happens every summer with Human Resources is we spend 3/4 of summer with our busiest work hiring people. And that happened this summer, even in light of the challenges that we had finishing up last year, position reductions, et cetera. So you have a few numbers up there that just give you a sense of the volume. And I think the key is that while most of the school district is off during the summer, the HR team is working full-time to try and make sure everything happens. Really proud of the team and what they did. And Michelle's going to provide a couple of snippets.
So one of the things we made a commitment to when we were looking at hiring for this coming school year is to try and keep as many of the employees that we already had who had been serving us and in commitment to our district. And so when we usually in the end of the year, we make a hiring pool for staff. And this year we had a lot of non-continuing teachers that we couldn't guarantee positions for at the end of the year. We directed the supervisors this year that they could only hire from the hiring pool until it was depleted. So there couldn't be any outside postings. And that really focused us in on the employees that have already been here giving us great service. So we actually hired almost 150 people in the teaching staff from that pool. 27 elementary, 73 secondary, and special ed and ESA was 46. So that let us keep those people in positions. Not all of them are full-time, but they at least have a position, which they were really excited about. And then the other piece that's really been important is I know you've heard that we've gone to position control. And one reason this was really important for us is that we know that every single position has a budget tied to us. And basically somebody does not get hired unless we know there's a position and a budget that match and align. But we've also been able this year to reduce the number of out of endorsement pieces because we're doing very, very tight certificate checks along with those pieces. So all of those pieces have enabled us to have a staff that is really aligned with what it is that they're teaching and the experiences that we have.
And one last piece, you heard this a little bit from Dr. Armaki at the last board meeting, but one of the highlights for our new employees was the bus tour, welcoming them to Bellevue. And we had one of the comments most common that was positive in our feedback from our new employees was the bus tour. So thank you, Dr. Armaki.
So with Jubilee Reach, I think most people are familiar with the work they do, but I wanted to start by reading their vision, which is to love students and families, listen to the deeper needs of the community, and learn from those they serve. And so Jubilee kind of has 4 areas where they engage with the community. The first is the one that we're most familiar with, and that's Jubilee in the schools. They've got site coaches in 8 elementary schools, all 5 middle schools, our 2 choice schools, and our 2 high schools. And they also run our middle school sports program. Jubilee Reach in the community, they have an incredible community center where they provide before and after school care. They do parent education, tutoring, medical care. They run a thrift shop. And the 4th area is kind of community service. And that's really where this day of service comes in. So, 1,000 plus volunteers from the community serving in 20 of our 28 schools. And the kind of things they do, it ranges from, preparing classrooms to a little bit of landscaping to preparing teacher materials. It's just an incredible mobilization of people in the community in service of our kids and families, and specifically our teachers as we start the school year. So big shout out to Jubilee Reach. They are a gem in our community.
Summer Institute. We had another successful Summer Institute. We always have 2 parts of the Summer Institute. Elementary is in one building and secondary is another one. One of the things that we wanted to do is to create an inclusive environment from our teachers as they come back from their summer break. And in elementary, we had an activity to build community. And all our schools were set up in different classrooms, and they had to create a poster to show what represents their school, their culture, year, and we really wanted for staff to be seen, to be heard. And so you can see a picture of those posters that all our elementary schools did. And then we also offer different sessions. We offer sessions on math interventions, early literacy. We also focus on how to support students with anxiety and STEM. So we had a variety of sessions where educators had the opportunity to select what choice best would be for them. And also, it got my attention that we had a session that was called Canvas and GLAD. It was a full session. And I think if you have heard about Canvas, it makes anything from simple to beautiful. But they added 3 strategies from GLAD, and one of them was pictorial in charts and cognitive content dictionary and narrative input. And so all of our educators, when they left, they came with a practical way to use Canvas in their classroom and to support students in a friendly presentations.
There's 3 highlights that I'll bring. Is one, the new hire days. And so first, one is new hire days, the second will be equity day, and third, just a quick overview of Secondary Summer Institute. So new hire days, big shout out to Janisha Branch, our Director of Employee Relations and Leadership Development. And one of the big highlights that the focus was on, since we had 35 new educators in different roles in Bellevue School District show up, which is a significant reduction of the past, was to really focus on belongingness and human-centered systems. And so that was the huge focus, to ensure that they received the love and the care as demonstrated by the bus tour. Showing the history of Bellevue School District. That was a huge anchor to ensure that they're committed, and we're committed to them as well. Second is the Equity Day, and again, that's anchored in our strategic plan, annual plan, foundational goal 2. That's belongingness, or beloved community. And so the big focus there was building our system and launching our equity plan for the second place where we launched it. Beyond leadership learning days. And so Secondary Summer Institute was awesome. Another shout out to our curriculum developers, teachers, ITCLs, and support staff. The focus was on creating the conditions for our teachers to first know and value their students, and second, create engaging classrooms. So in knowing and value students, that's Danielson 1B, the first half day was focused on beloved community, annual plan foundational goal 2. Sessions to choose one from were multilingual learning, inclusion, microaggressions, or anti-Semitism. The afternoon was content and skill specific, more focused on Danielson 3C, creating engaging classrooms.
And lastly, just talk a little bit about some additional professional development we had for all of our ESAs, our counselors and special education teachers. We had over nearly 300 folks in those days. A couple of highlights from them. One, our secondary counselors had a successful getting started on SchoolLinks, our new platform for our high school and beyond plan, and really getting to see how that is going to be an amazing tool to support students in their academic and career pathways. We also had our Special Educators Day at Chinook. Again, a huge number of people, staff went to choice sessions. One of them very popular was around serving students who are duly qualified with an IEP and receiving MLL services, and the uniqueness of that. They also got a great opportunity to meet with their principals, so that we came together, brought our school teams together to really advance the work of our accessibility and inclusion design team from last year, and talk about how we were going to really redesign and think about IEP and 504 meetings for this coming year. And we also hosted, just following that, 350 of our paraeducators, and really building their scales for 2 days. They were focused on de-escalation techniques, cultural identity and diversity, adolescent development and communication, and really just to strengthen them to support our students with IEPs.
And next.
I think I've got a couple before we get to that, so thank you. Right, so this led us to our professional learning days. These are the school-based professional learning days facilitated by our principals and coaches. And this year we actually had 3 days. Historically, we've had 2 days in August and a day in October. We're not going to have the professional learning day in October this year, so we have 3 days in August. One of the focuses across all of the schools was on the new Danielson Framework for Teaching, as Dr. Jackson referenced, with a specific focus around getting to know students and creating engaging learning environments and experiences for students. In our elementary schools, we had a focus on literacy and math, specifically using the new iReady platform to design more targeted interventions and supports for students in reading and math. And at secondary, we had schools running sessions to interrupt and address harmful and discriminatory language. These are the sessions that our colleague Freedom Johnson has been facilitating, which every time she does it, we just get amazing feedback. Here's a quote from one of our educators about just how impactful that was. And we had one of our high schools go to the Chicano History Museum, and another high school go to the Burke Museum, trying to think about how do we affirm our students' identities in a way that enables us to be more culturally responsive in our teaching and learning. So just continue to get great feedback from our educators, and just the instructional leadership is just really exciting. And then everything that you're hearing about now is all about this first day of school. And we're just so grateful that all of our directors were able to be there to see what happens on the first day of school. It's just a celebration. It's just a celebration. I love these pictures. Last first day. So from our seniors who were experiencing their last first day to our first graders who were experiencing their first day, it was just amazing. Just the joy and the enthusiasm. It was great to see. We included a picture of Eva Collins because she was there at Bennett with her grandson to help us launch the first cohort of students for the Japanese dual language program. So just an amazing celebration of a new program starting, and just the innovation that continues to happen in our district. And then just overall thinking about what are we really trying to accomplish on the first day of school. We're really trying to accomplish two things. We want our parents, our families, our kids to feel welcomed, and we want them to be excited about learning. And I know I saw that at the schools, and I think you did as well. And so it really was a great first day of school.
And then, oh yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yep. Now I'll get to share a little bit about the video, which will pretty much describe and bring to life the joy of the day. So the first day carries a great importance. And yes, for funding and academic reasons, but even more so for what formulas and theories don't measure. And that's the joy of seeing their favorite teacher or their friends, the laughter and the conversations that they have as they spark new friendships and new beginnings with classmates, new and old. The heart of this video will show that, and also as it's tied to our strategic plan, building human-centered systems where every student belongs. And I hope these images capture just a bit of the magic that we all experienced the first day. And up next on Monday will be, tomorrow will be kindergarten.
I was just thinking about Aaron. He's our chief of schools, but he's overseeing elementary now too. And he talked about how there's so many bubbles like at elementary school. So it's hopefully this captures we want school to be fun and engaging. And just a shout out to all the PTSAs and the school communities for doing so much work just to bring the balloons and the bubbles and the joy to school the first day. And then the last slide here for our update is just a reminder that tomorrow, here come the kindergartners. So if you don't recognize the GIF, it's Kindergarten Cup. Anyways, okay. But yeah, tomorrow's the first day of kindergarten. So tomorrow is a totally fun day, and hopefully people will be able to get out there and see the kindergarten kids show up and bring the real energy to school. So anyways, that's the end of the update, and I'll turn it back over to you for comments, questions from the board.
Okay, so as he said, comments and questions from the board. Who would like to go first with that? Hands up. I'm going to just call on somebody. Director Aris, you're first in the line.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for starting the year with a robust bang and letting the board join you in the visit to the schools. It was fun to be able to be at so many schools in one day. I have to say I was tired by the time I went home. So I'm sure you must have been exhausted as well. And I only went to 4 schools. I am thankful for all the hard work that was put into place, as you've mentioned, from Summer Institute to the leadership and everything else in between, and the finance team. I am so thankful to be able to see the entire team on Tuesday. I didn't realize how many people were behind the scene doing the work that they were doing, as well as HR. So thank you. I did have a couple of questions based upon the presentation, just a curiosity and wonder than anything else. And there was a number that was shared, job applications since June of 2,578 applicants. I'm curious if this was like higher than normal or is a kind of a standard. And you don't have to answer the question. I'll probably wait until everyone asks all the questions. And it sounds like with the Jubilee Reach also had an uptick on volunteerism. That's great to hear. Good to see people getting back into swing of things and getting involved in our schools again. And I'm glad to hear that we had some training on GLAD and utilization of that in our schools. I was just listening to a podcast the other day about that there's more than 5 senses. It's like 34 sciences proven. I was like, oh, I got more learning to do. So it sounds like any way to engage our students, the greater it is. So I just have lots of thanks and for a great start.
Okay. Director Webster.
Well, I just wanted to thank you all for all your hard work, especially thankful for Heather, who had to deal with me all morning and allowed me to visit the schools with her. So thank you so much. It was just so interesting. The kids have no filter. One kid came up to me, got really close and said, "Who are you?" And so I got down, they shook their hand and explained who I was, introduced myself, and their other little cohort of individuals were also curious. So I explained what a board director does, and it was just really fun. So I really enjoyed that. Really grateful for our Jubilee Reach volunteers. I think we just have such an incredible community of volunteers to come and just help us every year, and I'm just so grateful to have those, to have Jubilee Reach as a partner. And I also wanted to welcome the new hires, the 35 individuals who I didn't get to meet on the bus tour, but I'm so glad that that we were able to demonstrate our values and the care that we show and demonstrate to our new hires, and it is in alignment with our strategic plan. So I'm just really grateful and welcome those individuals. And the question that I had was also in alignment with the applications as well, wondering if the applicants, since we didn't, if we keep some sort of a record of individuals who sort of rise to the top, but may not have gotten hired for future positions. I'm just kind of curious about that. Thanks.
didn't have the mic on. Director Trias.
Thank you, everyone, for the nice presentation. Since I joined the board in April, the first day of school was my favorite one. So I was there, looking to the faces of all the students and also to the parents, and it was just amazing. And what also I was very inspired about our teachers, because I was thinking that, well, with all our budget constraints, they will be a little bit, well, thinking, oh my God, this year what is going to happen? And they were even more excited than the student. So, and that is because we are doing, and you are doing a great job there, and they feel heard and support. So please keep doing that with our staff. That is going to be super, super important. And just letting you know that this is the way, working in collaboration. It was super nice meeting finance and meeting HR, and to see that we are all together doing the work and just getting through and going to our, all fighting for our financial stabilization. Thank you very much.
Okay, my turn. All right, I have a lot to say, actually. I really appreciate the way you all described the professional development that you'd been doing, because it reassured me that we are transmitting news that staff can use instead of like vague generalities. I really like the way, you know, like, oh, we can use Canvas this way. Oh, we have this technique for, you know, interrupting kids saying things that they shouldn't be saying. And we have, you know, some new things for math or what, you know, so I really like that specificity. So, and then I really loved being able to go out to the schools, to see the enthusiasm of the students coming into the building, to see the teachers in action. We got to go into 2 classrooms and just sort of see how things were going. And the super enthusiastic principals. We had the one principal who was just like, and you have to see this, and you have to see this, and you got to come down this hallway and go down that hallway. And then another one showed how what they have to take on the first day of school. We have more kids than we expected at this particular school, and we can't fit them all in the lunchroom. And now we have a chart, and we have to quick arrange it before lunchtime. So that was interesting to see too. Let's see. I really appreciate the way Dr. Aramaki includes the board in this, and I wanted to really call that out because we feel as a board now a little more part of things, you know, really involved. And this is part of why someone would join the board, right? Because they love seeing kids and education and all of that. So it's great to be included in that. And I also wanted to convey my apologies to Jingmei because I didn't get over there and I really wanted to. Ran out of time in the day. And just one thing on HR. If we could figure out how to let the people who don't get the jobs know that the position is filled so that they don't just sit there on edge forever, that would be great. Maybe automated, maybe it doesn't have to be somebody writing a personal thing every time, but if people could just know when the job is filled, that would be helpful. Thank you. And of course, as usual, I'll say that goes through him. So if he doesn't agree, you don't have to do it. All right, Phil. Dr. Blanc, Mr. whatever, Director Blanc.
First, I want to express my appreciation for all your hard work. It feels a little bit like a school district is a startup that starts up every year in September, and then you kind of close down for summer and go into a lot of work goes on all summer. And I know you guys are the leaders to make that happen so that we have a successful first day of school. And from what I've seen, it's been a great first week of school for the students that I know, and I have just one in the schools now, but our friends and all of them. It was really a delight to see the brand new Japanese program. I have not spent very much time in an immersion type program like that, and it was great to see the stunned look on some of the first graders' faces every word that came at them was in Japanese. And I was impressed that I could work out some of what was being said, even though that's a very foreign language to me. And seeing the teachers engage and bring along the students and bring them along is great. I want to recognize the dozens of volunteers, hundreds of volunteers that make everything possible. In addition to Jubilee Reach and the people who worked in the classrooms, there were some people who went outside of the classrooms and worked on the grounds. The Bellevue Green and Clean program went to a number of our campuses and did cleanups. We greatly appreciate that. They made some suggestions for other improvements we can make. We'll see what we can do there. It's great to get their support and making sure that we've got, I think that they clearly recognize that there's a lot of community use that creates some impacts to our campuses, and they helped clean up some of that before the students got there, which was great. I also want to reflect on the bus drivers. It's great to get their, see if they start the day and they close the day for a lot of our districts. I know our Director of Transportation gave me a bumper sticker, "Have you hugged your bus driver today?" Yeah. I do want to recognize that some parents have been less than courteous to some of our drivers, at least in their communications. And these people are doing their best. And we need to be, they're professionals doing their job. They're taking care of our kids. And we need to be really helpful and respectful in our engagement with them about that. It's really troubling to see people get really caustic towards our drivers. They're a critical part of our infrastructure. They're the first people that your kids see when they get on the bus. I really appreciated the information on public professional development. I do wonder if there are some opportunities for us to help reach out to our city partners and maybe share some of our professional development with them, as also whether we're taking advantage of the professional development opportunities our neighboring districts have developed to see if there are opportunities to kind of share as a consortium amongst us. I do want to recognize that class sizes are a bit larger than we want. I've got a son who's in a 37-person English class. And you know, I think that there's going to be some learning of new ways to deliver content and to do. I also want to make one ask, which is I know that there are some of our school programs are waitlisted, and we don't have any transparency as a board as to how many kids are on the wait list, what's the process for moving through that wait list, and if we could get more transparency on how that system's working, I think that would be good to understand. Thanks.
Okay, so I think that's everybody. All right.
Do we want to have him just answer a couple of the HR questions?
Oh, sure. Yes.
Dr. Thomas.
Sure. So the first one, in terms of total numbers of applications during the summer period, the total number is about average. The types of applications and the numbers have changed. So as an example, we have a sitting custodial application that has over 40 current applicants that a year ago we would have been lucky to have 2 or 3. Yeah. So the dynamic is really more about position specific, but by the nature of the larger economic conditions, we're seeing more support applicants, and our teacher applicant pools, although number-wise are about the same, because it's a tighter labor market, there are more active applications now because not as many teachers have been hired. So that's really a summary on that one. Second question was, do we keep track of quality candidates that maybe we don't hire for that job for future consideration? Yes. And the challenge becomes sometimes that next job may not show up for 6 months or a year, and by that time they may not be available. But yes, our hiring managers are really good about notifying HR when we have good candidates, and then we track them as well. And then I think the third question was getting back to candidates if they are not hired. We do have a process that we do that, but sometimes it may be missed. So we will take that back to our staff to reinforce it. And it is automated but generated from HR. But thank you for that feedback.
Okay. Okay, Director Ars.
Thank you. Sorry, I just want to have a follow-up question regarding the applications. Out of curiosity, I know we have in the past make great efforts to make sure we're diversifying our staff to make sure that we're reflecting our student body. And with all the effort that has been put out there, are the application following that effort that we're putting out there, where more the application employee is becoming more diverse?
I don't think it's becoming more diverse. I think it's essentially stable in terms of the diversity of the applicants. Later in the year, we'll report back our diversity data, but our early indication is that in spite of the staff reductions, we've actually been able to maintain diversity. And when we do the fuller sharing of that data, I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised by the outcomes.
Okay, any other final board comments? Since we are a little slightly ahead of schedule, I'm just wondering if any of the staff had anything further that they wanted to add, that maybe they were triggered by something the board said. No? Okay, we're good. All right, so that will be the end of the first day of school presentation. And now, we don't have any reports, but we do have some board business. Item number 7. So we're going to start off with the approval of the 2025-2026 board governance calendar, and I will call on Mr. John Harrison, who helps us with that.
Thank you, President Watson. Just a reminder to the community that we have a policy that states that the board, policy 1810, will approve an annual board calendar by the second meeting in September. So a little bit early this year. We'll be asking for your approval tonight of the governance calendar as presented. I did want to mention that there was some feedback on Monday, which we greatly appreciated. And just to let you know, we did make a couple of changes to the calendar based on your feedback. One of the suggestions was that a request that the staff well-being report maybe be done earlier in the year. What we decided to do was to leave the report where it is, but do a pre-report update in December, the December 18th meeting. In talking with Director Aris, your legislative rep, she reminded me that we should make time under board business to approve our 2026 session legislative priorities. So you'll notice on October 2nd, I included that as board business. And then again in March, when it's time to consider WASDA legislative and standing positions, a little bit of time on the March agenda to talk about that. So those are the 3 changes to the calendar. I'll also remind you that the policy work column is blank right now, because the next item on your agenda tonight is the approval of the policy schedule. Once that's been approved, we will put those dates, the dates of first and second readings, on the calendar. So I leave it to you, President Watson.
Okay, I'm going to open it up for a little bit of discussion. So would any of the board, would you like to start out?
Sure, I'll start at the other end last time. I really appreciate all 3 of those updates. I think that they're all spot on and reflect the discussion we had on Monday. I appreciate having a mini update on the staff reflecting, so that we have a chance to check in with our staff and where they're at. The legislative update, that makes tons of sense, and I can't remember the third one, but it made sense to me too. So I really appreciate all 3 of those changes.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, Director Webster, sure.
Yeah, just one thing. The retreat date that's on the December the 16th isn't on our Outlook calendar. And I'm just wondering if there's any possibility that, especially for me, like for working board directors, if that can be put on as soon as possible. That would be really helpful as I plan out kind of the rest of the year. But other than that, I'm happy with the calendar.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess I'll go next. That's okay. So one, I really appreciate that we do this board governance calendar because it helps the board be part of the decision making. I know that sounds strange, but I heard that like even before I joined the board, staff would just kind of decide things and they would just talk about things randomly. So I like, as they came up, and I like the idea that we plan and we try to cover as many different areas of board interest, areas of the annual plan, so we get reports on all the aspects of that. So I really like the way we lay this out. So this is good. With that said, the thing with, sometimes the dates don't seem like the right dates for decision-making, but we learned that you can't really talk about, say, for example, staff well-being until you have the data from the staff survey. So there are things like that that have to be balanced. And then I also want to make the community aware, to the extent that they might be listening, that this isn't always written in stone. Sometimes through the agenda planning process, which involves the superintendent, the chief of staff, the president and the vice president, a report or something has to be like maybe moved to the next thing or tabled for a while or whatnot. And we have a process for that, and that happens during agenda planning. But we will try to stick with this and update this, as required. So is that right?
Yeah, and I'll just say one more thing for the community. We do post this calendar, and when we make changes, we adjust the calendar that's posted. So for community members listening, if you want to know what the board's up to next May, you can check out the governance calendar once it's posted.
But we did have an issue last spring where somebody was waiting for a report that they didn't get.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's next? Director Aris?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for providing the updated and taking in, or putting in some time for the legislative conversation. Honestly, I am very thankful for that. We have a collaborative work and creating this space and making sure that we're covering all bases, that we're putting the board's input into what needs to be discussed based upon what we understand or what we hear from the community as well as from the staff as well. I think it creates a robust and a very full calendar that reflects the need of the community. So thanks.
All right, Director Trias. Yeah.
So thank you for putting all together. And I especially like that the reports are linked with our annual goals, with the focus on the foundational. That gives us a lot of room for the board to follow up. How are we doing the things, and not to have at the end of the school year and have kind of backup plan and to see and to monitor. So that is very good. And as I just want to point the same that Caroline said, that even, for example, in the pre-meeting, I said I was a little bit worried that chronic absenteeism, that for us, it's a very huge thing, that it was after Christmas. And again, Dr. Amaki explained us that obviously, since the day one, you are going to monitor that and you are going to act. So for the public, even if it's after Christmas, the district is going to work on that and seriously. So I really appreciate also that. Thank you very much.
We've all had a turn. Anything more that needs saying? Okay. So now I think we need a motion to approve the board governance calendar. Who hasn't made a motion yet? Would like to make a motion?
I move to approve the board governance calendar.
All right. Second. Okay, you can second. And then any more discussion on that? No? All right. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving this board governance calendar as written, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And anybody opposed? I didn't hear anything. So we'll say that the board governance calendar is now approved.
Thank you, board.
All right, now we go on to the approval of the 25-26 policy schedule.
Okay, just for context for the community, the board has a procedure under its policy maintenance and review policy that requires the policy liaison, who is yours truly, to develop a rolling policy schedule that identifies and prioritizes policies for revision, full review, and from time to time, new policies. It also requires that the board approve the policy schedule at the beginning of each year. So I have drafted a policy schedule for the 25-26 school year. It's fairly robust because, as you recall, with all of the budget work last year, we did not do as much policy work. You did not do as much policy work as you typically do in a year. So I don't need to explain how the policy schedule was developed, because I did that on Monday. But what I will tell you is a couple of the changes that I made based on your feedback. One of the changes was that there was a suggestion that policy 3245, which deals with cell phones and other electronic devices, even though the proposed changes are administrative in nature, a request was, because there's been so much conversation about cell phones nationally, including here in Bellevue, that it would be a good idea to do that policy as a first and second reading. And I'll remind the public that we do have a new procedure that gives schools operational guidance in how to deal with the cell phone policy, which, to summarize, basically restricts the use of cell phones during instructional time. So that was one change. There were a couple of policies where I was proposing administrative changes to that both have to do with the budget. And your advice, sound advice, I might add, was that those policies, because of all of the conversation and the budget situation we find ourselves in, it would be a good move and a transparent move for the public to move those to first and second, to include first and second readings. So those two policies were policy 6000, that's the budget policy, and budget 6022, which is the fund balance policy. So you will now notice that those are in that tan section of the schedule of the policies that you will attend to over the course of this school year. And finally, some clarity on potential new policy 1250, student representation. I believe it was Director Aris that made the suggestion, because it was sort of to be determined. The last advice from the board was that we seek some additional feedback and recommendations from a staff group, but it was felt that we should at least, rather than wait for that, and there's questions about whether there's capacity of the equity design team, is the team I mentioned, to work on this, that we bring forward a policy that codifies our commitment to student voice and agency and indicate the things that we're committed to and things that we're doing. So I thought that was great advice. Dr. Aramaki thought that was great advice, so we've now included that on the schedule for first and second reading. So those were the changes. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Sure. Anybody? All right, Director Webster.
I haven't started yet, so I'll start. Thank you, Chief of Staff Harrison. One of the things that I think was really important, and I believe that it was Director Trias that shared this on the Tuesday meeting, was that the community should know is that there is a section on the website where community members can submit questions, comments about policies. And I think it's on the board page. And if I'm not mistaken, those inquiries go to you. Is that correct, Chief of Staff Harrison?
That is correct. I was going to wait till the end, and I can talk a little bit about that at the very end. Please. But yes, they go to me.
Okay, and so I just wanted to make sure that that was mentioned. That's all. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, Director Block. I'm sorry. I can only see so
If you're ready,
much.
go ahead.
Yeah.
The only comment I was going to have was around the telecommunications device, having that scheduled for January through February. My comment is that the legislators around the country have been engaging on that. The next legislative session is going to be January 12th through March 12th. It might be prudent to have the second reading or the final reading after the end of the legislative session, just so we can wrap in anything that comes out of that session.
Yes, it's wrapping up what Director Webster, she just said about the feedback that the community can give us. And we have here a very good example about the policy 2401, that it was one of our parents who emailed the board and let us know that the policy needed a revision. So that is very important that community knows that we listen and we hear. even for the website, or just emailing us directly. And I don't know if Director Aras is going to say something, but in our meeting, she also brought up about engaging our families for the policy work and bringing the EDDM, the equity-driven decision-making, in our policy. And honestly, I think that it was a brilliant idea, and I would like that, well, if in the future we can work together on making that happen. Thank you.
Okay, who did I miss? Director Ars?
Well, I won't repeat what the director just said. It would be great to see an actual action more shows that we're a little more transparent for the larger community who do not have, who's new to the district or really do not understand but want to engage in some level and have an avenue to be able to share their thoughts and with us is around the policy. I think we have abundance of amazing community members who can give us input, they just don't know how. So more accessible and easier way for them to connect and not have to be in the know to be able to share that information. That'd be great.
Okay, and so I want to go off onto a discussion of policy versus procedure for a minute, because I think this often confuses people. Policy, so just like with, I want to say Congress or the state legislature, the elected group creates the law or the policy, and then the staff experts create whatever it's going to be, the regulations or the procedures that go around that. And so just trying to keep that straight, that policy is board and procedure related to policy is staff. That said, I would say, as a board, we're notified of the procedures and we should go ahead and deeply read them, because if something isn't the right intention, luckily, we have a very collegial relationship right now with Mr. Harrison and staff, so that if we didn't think it was the right thing, we could discuss that. We could just discuss it even one-on-one with him. It's never happened in my time on the board, but if it ever did happen that we were at odds, we could put the policy back on the agenda and tweak it that way. And then I'm also grateful that we are no longer in the wordsmithing business, although I did kind of enjoy it, but I used to have a 2-hour meeting every month to sit in a little conference room with Mr. Harrison and go over like it should be the or so we're out of that business, and hopefully, we're just a little more, as long as the right meaning is there, we don't have to control every word. So I appreciate that. And so, great. All right.
So do you want me, I address a couple things, and I'll start with yours, President Watson. I kind of miss those days as well, but in terms of efficiency and production, the current process is pretty efficient. And there is the opportunity to wordsmith. I think, as you all know, when we have a policy prior to first reading, I provide it to you, and you, of course, have the opportunity to redline, make suggestions, ask questions. So the difference is we're not doing as much wordsmithing in public, and I think that's efficient. To Vice President Webster's point about the website, on the policy and procedure page, there is a section that when there's a first reading, well in advance of that meeting, we post that first reading version so the public can see it. The second section is a link to the policy schedule. So if a member of the public wants to know what policy work the board is up to this year, they could see that, in April, policy XYZ is on the agenda. And if they have an interest, they have the opportunity to weigh in well in advance. There's a link that says policy feedback, and it's policy feedback at bsd405.org. and that does come to me. And there's not a ton of use of that email link. It is being used. I would love to get more feedback from the community. So that's one very, very general way to get community feedback. So I'm now moving to the equity-driven decision-making piece of that. I would say, Director Trias, it's more than an idea. It's a requirement. It's a requirement that we use the equity-driven decision-making process in policy development, budget development, major decisions, et cetera, curriculum adoptions. What I will say, though, is that not every policy is created equal. So a policy like, the retire, rehire policy, that's not one that the public would probably even wanting to engage in because it's staff focused. But a policy that's open for, and sometimes if it's minor revisions, it's usually because there's legislative changes, so it's not like we have a choice. Where the opportunity for full engagement really presents itself is when we have a policy that's up for full review. So for example, 4000 is our communications policy. Now that our wonderful communications team has been in place for several years, we've got great systems, they've got a great strategic plan. We're in the position now this year, and we've committed to getting to that policy because communications impacts virtually everybody in the system. I see golden opportunity for significant engagement with respect to that policy. I think I covered everybody's questions.
A little more comment. I think Director Block wants to say something.
Just point of order, you mentioned the policy email address. People who are interested in the policies can also email the board at bsd405.org, and that would go to the entire board as well as to you, Mr. Harrison.
And interestingly, the policy that Director Trias mentioned, that's exactly how that one came to be. There was emails to the board, and I followed up with that particular individual.
Okay, Director Webster?
And just one more thing around the EDDM framework. I think that's the beauty of the EDDM framework is that, you may just need to inform, right? And so I think that it's important that we utilize that in all of the decision-making that we're doing across the board, whether or not it's going to be actively engaging with community, but then that framework helps us to determine whether or not we do, and if there's a need for that, we have that opportunity. So I just wanted to point that out.
And I think that a great model was policy 5010 that you adopted, revisions to policy 5010 that you adopted last November. A group of staff approached me concerned that policy 5010 non-discrimination and affirmative action wasn't robust enough. And so that was a perfect example of working with a group of staff most impacted by the policy and lack of, in their words, protection for staff. So we ended up with, I think, a really robust policy 5010 as a result of that EDDM community engagement effort.
And then the second piece of that I just wanted to ask, I'm so sorry, is that I think that because we were so inundated with kind of the budget and finance this last year, we haven't had a lot of opportunity to utilize the EDDM framework in the policy. And so it might be helpful to have just a refresher for the board at some point. I know Melanie McGee, I'm sorry to call you out, was really intricately involved in that process and super knowledgeable. And so I think for me, it would be super helpful just to have a refresher.
And a great start, if you're interested and have the time, procedure 0130P describes it beautifully.
Helped write, and then the group rewrote, and I think it's been rewritten, but we're getting it. We're getting it.
Can I ask the last question?
Yes, please.
Super short. I would like to know if most of our policies, they have procedures or well, how is the balance? Because sometimes I know that we have policies, and if we don't have procedures, it's hard for our staff and for, to follow. That I am saying that about the language access. For example, we have the policy for years, but we couldn't implement any changes because we didn't have a procedure. And our district changed when we got the procedure. So I would like to know more or less how many.
The vast majority do. It's probably 85% or so. There are some policies that, are standalone by intention. They don't really need a procedure, that they stand alone on their merits or whatever they say. The reason why we had a bit of a disconnect a number of years ago is I was sort of, for a long time, the unofficial policy guy, and in the sense that I served and worked with the board on the policy committee. But the point at which Superintendent Mills said, this is a part of your responsibilities, bit by bit, we've been, there were policies that required procedures and we didn't have a procedure. So bit by bit, we're pretty close. And in the last few years, with this current board and the adoption of procedure 0200P, we now have really solid guidance. We're not 100%, but we're pretty darn close.
We're going to have a motion and then we can have even more discussion.
You open the Pandora's box, here I am. I'm wondering if it's a benefit if we could start maybe a new trend of when we do go through the policies, when it pertains to start seeing the procedures along with it, so that it is not just us who see it, but we also have it on record, and also the larger community understand that there's policy and there's also procedure, so that it is presented in the documents as we have our general meetings.
Anything else you need to say? Okay, and then we should have a motion. I was saying, do we have any more comments? And then I need a motion to approve this policy schedule, or I could say I move to approve this policy schedule. Will somebody second it?
Second.
All right. And then now, any more discussion now that we've got a motion? No, we kind of discussed. All right.
So I do have just one comment, which is 2420. It's grading and progress reporting. That's something that we discussed this year. We didn't reach a conclusion, move forward. I think it was first, there was extensive outreach and engagement maybe 2-3 years ago for almost a year. I want to be clear that we're trying to make a commitment to taking action on that this year. That's my understanding of this piece here.
Okay, more discussion?
Yeah, regarding my statement regarding asking about seeing the procedure with the policy, is that something the rest of the board would like, or is it just me?
I just wonder whether it actually is practical, in the sense that sometimes we might approve like a new policy and there would be no procedure written until a little later.
That's why I said when possible.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Maybe a lot of times rather than sometimes, and I have been doing that when it makes sense, and you're absolutely right. In some cases, it doesn't make sense. The cell phone one's a perfect example. Had you had a first reading of the policy and the procedure needed to go together in that particular instance. So sometimes, a lot of the times, it makes sense to do that. So that's good feedback, Director Aras.
Are we ready for the vote? All right. All those in favor of approving this policy schedule, please say aye.
Aye.
And anybody opposed? No. So that the policies, the 2025-2026 policy schedule is now approved. Do we have any footnote or understanding in there that like sometimes things have to be moved around?
Yeah, and that very quickly. That's why we refer to it as a rolling policy schedule. If there are changes that need to be made because of additional board business or unexpected board business, you've given me the leeway to do that, and my commitment to you is to keep you informed when that happens.
Right. So we'll try to stick to this, but maybe we should. Didn't we used to have a little asterisk somewhere, the little fine print that said sometimes things move around, or more?
It is probably good to be clear about that, because it's not a set in stone calendar. I mean, it's flexible, so we just want to make sure that that's clear.
Okay.
Thank you, board.
We approved that. We're still a little ahead, which is always great. And now it's time for director discussion. I felt like we've discussed a lot already, but all right, let's have some more director discussion. Does anybody have anything that the rest of us don't know about that they'd like to share? Okay. All right.
Well, I would like to share, well, that I saw a lot of joy at the first day of school, but I was very delighted to be part of the launch of the Japanese dual language program. That it was very important for me. I think we are making history. So to be there, and why I am saying that so firmly is because, well, my parents, they didn't go. I want to share my story because I think it can be helpful for the community. My parents didn't go to college, and for them, and I am the only child, they were super obsessed about my education. So they decided to put me in a bilingual French school at that time in the 70s in Spain. And that was the best gift that my parents have ever done to me. Why? Because it's not only that French is my second language, it's about the global competency, about my mindset. So that brought me, I am a different Martha, right? So when I got married, we decided that our kids are going to be international. So we have lived in 4 different countries, 4 different schools, and that left them, and they are very global. And linking to that is not easy. Being international, everyone thinks that we are super cool. Oh, you are in America. Oh, you go to Spain. It's hard. It's super hard. For me, every day that I am here, I am still an MLL parent. And now I remember when I send my kids to the school, don't worry, you are going to be fine. I know in the panic on their eyes, no, Mom, I am not going to be fine. I am 53 years old, and I am still panicking to public speaking in my 3rd language. So I super emphasize with our students, and I want to link that with our MLL services. My kids, they are now in UW, and the other went to Loyola, thanks obviously to the great excellent education, but without the MLR services, that would not happen to them. So, and it was super important that the services was great, very standard, high level standard, right? That they didn't put them in another class, and they asked my kids to do their best every time. So I am super grateful for Melissa Macias and all the teams. These dual language programs have a lot of community work with governments, a lot of preparation. You cannot believe, community cannot believe how much work is behind the scenes. And thank you very much for making that happen. We have one dual language Spanish program that is going to be the 40th anniversary this year. We have our Mandarin with waiting list. We have our Korean that is perfect. We have our Arabic, and still in 1st grade, I think we still have the Hindi. So, man, congratulations, and we are global. We are global. Thank you very much.
Okay. Who's next? Director Block.
So I have just a couple of things. One, I want to recognize that Legislative Representative Aras and myself, and some of the staff, including Chief of Staff Harrison, went to a meeting with Congressman Adam Smith earlier this month. I guess it was last month. It was great to hear some of their perspectives on ideas. I wish that I could come back here and say all these great things that are coming. There's still a lot of work to be done, clearly, and there's, I think we all see that there are things, but it's good to have a good, strong relationship with our federal representatives, and good to have that face-to-face time with them. I also want to reflect on kind of breaking news. So Bellevue Schools Foundation is a critical partner, fundraising partner for the school district, and they're transitioning their executive director. So with the support from the existing executive director and President Susan Ishii-Yin and past President Stephanie Ferguson, they're starting the search for a new executive director, and will be transitioning this fall to new leadership. Bellevue Schools Foundation is a critical partner for the school district. Very important to help raise funds for a number of important programs, and we look forward to continued success with that group and continued leadership from the Bellevue Schools Foundation on that. I also, just on a personal note, I had a great time visiting briefly with the bus maintenance team, and I said, hey, we don't do enough to recognize you guys. What can I do? And I mentioned that my wife works for a truck company. He said, oh, could you just get me some swag? Get me a little something, stickers for the guys' toolboxes. And that was super easy for me to do. I made the ask. I came back with a dozen hats and stickers as requested. And so hopefully those guys now have a little bit of swag and a little more appreciation. And part of my message there is that sometimes it's easy for us to show appreciation, and we just have to ask people, how can we show them that appreciation, to be able to reflect on that. I was really excited and delighted to be able to just do a little thing that hopefully makes a difference and makes them know that we're here to support them, and we really do appreciate all the hard work they do. Thanks.
All right, Director Ars.
Well, I'll follow up on that. I've received some thank you messages from staff for us showing up on the first day. They very much appreciate us showing up and showing our faces and seeing that we support them. So I think it's good that we were able to be there, though it is early in the morning. And I also have to say I am very thankful that we get to participate in the first day of school for the Japanese program, though I do feel a little bit sorry for our first grade teachers. I think we were overwhelmed. I don't know. I was thinking first day with 14 people with the high figures and standing in the behind while you're trying to teach, first graders. That was pretty intense. I applaud and appreciate our teachers in there doing the work with all the intensity around them. But I do very much appreciate everyone stepping it up. And as well as I'd mentioned this before, it's great to see more parents walking their kids to school. I feel like this year I've seen more and less congestion as well. And I am very thankful for that. And I made this comment. I had the privilege of going and visiting our schools and programs with Dr. Williams, and I got to stop by Digital Discovery and hear from them how the numbers are growing in that program. But I also had to say how lucky our students are for all the things our district offers. For our Digital Discovery kids, at some point, each one of them at the elementary level get to take a Lego robotics kit home. A whole kit. And I was thinking, 20 years ago, I was trying to just get one kit through PTA so that the whole school could have access. And we're going from that to now every kid having a full kit to take home through Digital Discovery. It's pretty impressive. And that's, I can't help but to think that our students are very blessed, as from whether it is STEM-related access or language access, which also makes me be thankful that we are focusing on UDL, GLAD, SciUp, and all these tools which are really supporting all the different learners, because whether you're English language learner or you're Japanese or Korean or Hindi or Arabic, you need all those tools to going all directions and be having a clear pathway of learning. And so I appreciate all the teachers stepping up in picking up those skills and those tools to help students. Oh, I do have one more thing. I know John's going to send out an email on Friday, but the General Assembly is coming up September 20th. And so when the board has a moment, please take a look at all the positions. If there's any strong opinions on a position that you feel that as a board that I need to represent and vote a certain direction, please let me know. And we need to make sure that I am reflecting our values. Thanks.
Okay.
I don't have very much. I just first really appreciate Director Block's sentiment and just recognizing the transportation department and in the way that they feel recognized and valued. And so I appreciate that you did that. And really grateful to our principals who were just so enthusiastic to have us there. It was just so nice to get to meet the new folks coming into the building spaces. And then they took us around, took us to classrooms, getting a chance to meet some of the new and existing educators was really fun for me. And then I really just wanted to shout out our community members who have throughout the summer have reached out to share kind of some opportunities that we may be missing in terms of outreach and bolstering some of our enrollment numbers and just so many opportunities, you know, that we could be looking into that we may have missed. And so I just wanted to thank our general community for their engagement and their involvement in all things Bellevue School District. So that's all that I had. Thanks.
Okay. Marta?
No.
Okay. So a few random thoughts from me. We've all described that first day of school, so that has been the most exciting thing since our last meeting for me. I think I'll just add, in case anybody's wondering, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think little robotics kits are somewhat expensive, but they probably are able to be done with the tech levy. Is that right? Because that's the place where we're not as restricted in the funding. And so we try to do like tech stuff there. I don't know. But in case somebody's like, how can you afford that? Because you have all these financial constraints. And then the General Assembly, yes. They sent an email to you and to me about it, but they said we should share the link, which I think you're doing. And we get to send 2 people. Only one person can vote. But that email was written in a way that we could like pass the vote around if we had to. But that's your vote. I mean, you're elected to do that by our board. But you can bring somebody else with you, or can we all lurk?
Actually, everybody could, this year is online.
Right.
So we all could lurk,
right,
as you say. And I think it would be great for everyone to chime in and or at least observe for a part of it to see how it works, because this is my second year. Someone else will have to take on the rep position afterwards. And so it would be good to see what the process looks like. And it is interesting.
Okay. So you're the person with voice and vote. I'm just trying to make sure that we don't violate OPMA by having too many of us on the
I think
meeting.
if you're just observing, it's
yeah, we can just observe without chiming in if we want
yeah.
to.
It's a public meeting.
Yeah.
So
okay. Clarifying that. Yeah, and there's a lot of material to go through for that. And then let's see, what else? Oh, I just wanted to say that's cool. I'm always up for stickers and hats. But we don't have like necessarily something for that slots into each of these things. But I think we could do a little more thought. You know, we've done pins and stickers in the past, but I don't know if everyone knows Dr. Aramaki was giving out duct tape, like decorative, nicely wrapped duct tape, you know, as part of the we're putting this together in Apollo 13 kind of way. So yeah, the swag can encourage community building and morale. And I'll say it's sort of in the opposite direction. Once in my early years on the board, and I for the life of me can't remember what I possibly did to deserve this, I got a card from the bus drivers with the picture of them and a thank you on it. And I kept that thing posted in my house for like a year after I received the bus driver pictures. So that could go a long way. I like the way we're doing more cards to like people who come and speak for us or to us, thank you notes. And you know, I was going to say more on that swag theme. Our office staff has figured out how to propagate little bits of plants that thrive in low light, and you might have seen that in the Collins Cafe, but they put them on the tables at the PTA and principals breakfast, and I think a lot of people left because they had to go to training, but I was gifted one of those little plants, and it's got a place of pride, and I always think fondly of our central office staff who did that for us when I look at it. So it's always kind of cool. All right, that's enough from me. All right. So now it's, if I haven't missed anybody, I'm always asking, who did I miss? Because, you know, when you go around the 5 people enough times, eventually you lose track on each discussion. But anyway, we now are on break, and break should be probably about 15 minutes, even though we're running early a little bit. So let's come back from break at 6:20. Oh, let's come back from break in about 15 minutes. 6:25. That way we can possibly do our finance session and maybe not be here all night.